So this is part 2 of repairing the Ninja fairing. I'm going to demonstrate the way I normally repair some of the broken tabs using carbon fiber and CA, and try to pass on some other good information to anybody that needs to repair a fairing or needs to repair broken tabs, and how to use the carbon fiber and CA in a very efficient way. You can do it relatively easily, you can do it relatively quickly, and you can restore some old motorcycle parts that way. So today we have a very eclectic day, a super eclectic day. Karen has a list of stuff for me to do a mile long. I have some of Rip's parts I can work on. We're working on those on and off. I wish I could get a ride in. It's really cold in, but we never know how these days are going to play out. And that's what makes this, let me get around here. Don't knock the MT-09 over. That's what makes this an exciting time of year, because every day you can pick a different bike. Every day you never know what's coming. You never know if it's going to snow, if it's going to rain, or it's never Groundhog Day this time of year. That's one of the things I like about it. And probably the best thing of all here is that we have virtually all of the bikes ready to go, and there's always maintenance to do on them. But just looking around, and I have my little priority list. There's tires to change, and there's bikes coming up on the oil change. But basically we have the whole collection ready to roll. All we need is weather, and I don't know how this day is going to play out. That's what I like the most, is when I don't know, because when every day starts looking like the day you just had, or I don't know. Some people do enjoy that though. I'm not one of them. Now last year while we were doing this restoration, 500 hours, I don't think there was 2 days in a row that were exactly the same. Every day there would be something totally different to do, and the year went very pleasantly. And at the end of it, at the end of all that work and scrubbing and painting and cleaning, we got this guy, and he's been a good companion. He is our winter bike, my favorite winter bike, because he's got a windshield. He's aerodynamic, so you don't hear a lot of, well, you do hear the wind noise. But that wind slayer has been playing along, and thank you Turbo Steve for that heads up. I'm thinking it's only going to get better, and we got 2 of them too. And this is a bike I really do enjoy riding. It's one of those underrated sleeper bikes that after you ride it you say, wow, that's a good bike. And being honest, I feel like I'm neglecting this poor GS because I haven't been able to figure out a way of getting a radar detector on it. And I'm a little skeptical going up where we normally ride. It's a highly populated area, and there's a lot of radar traps, and it's a beautiful area to ride, but you better have a radar detector. But as soon as we figure that out, and I have ideas, but I just haven't finalized them yet to where I'm happy with it. But it's coming. And I got to do that engine polishing thing. Shame on me. That was one of the things, well, I'm working on Rip's parts now, but we want to take a dedicated day and do the polishing thing. I think that's going to be a fun video, and it's something, it's actually, if you go to my channel, and you can search my channel by putting my name, Wendy Artnowski, in parentheses, and then just put up the second part of the search, GS1100E, that's going to be the first video that comes up. That's got the most hits of any. And we're going to do it over again. So one of the things I always like having on a day, can't go riding, it's too cold to ride, well, we hope it's going to warm up today. Anyway, time to get started on this eclectic day. Don't want to miss showing this. Check this out. I don't even want to take the lid off of that. We have cake for lunch today. So look how funny this is. We now have this law in New Jersey, you have to dine outside in winter weather. But look at this. Can you believe this? These are my outdoor diners here this morning. They're dining outside according to New Jersey law. And the feeder's right up here full of seeds. Hey guys, bird brains. Oh, my birds are so hungry this morning. Oh, he's sitting there like he owns the feeder. Hey, we'll make a mess. Now before I head out to do my errands for the day, I wanted to look at how this dried up. This looks like it dried up fine. I'm looking at it from this angle. That's going to be a good repair. Now, when I get back from Home Depot, I got to head to Home Depot. I want to drill out the hole and I want to put a little more reinforcement in the back. But as every unpredictable day here, we've got a little plumbing problem in the house, and I've got to head out to Home Depot. And depending on how this day plays out, we don't know how the weather's going to play out. We don't know how my plumbing issue is going to play out, but we may get some of the tabs done with this. And another project we have, we want to polish up and clean up the muffler for one of our next projects anyway. It's going to be an eclectic day. Now what's beautiful is when you own an old house and we have 12-year-old cars, a 100-year-old house, and antique motorcycles, you do spend a lot of your life in Home Depot. That's for sure. Now it's funny, when we bought our 100-year-old house, and that was 30 years ago, so I think John DeTavio and I, and everybody I know knows John DeTavio, we lived at Home Depot. And it's like I can't get away from Home Depot. Old houses, old motorcycles, old cars, old men. What a life. They just for reference, the 5-minute JB Weld is nowhere near as good as the regular JB Weld. I have found that to be true. And what could be more fun than shopping in Home Depot? And they have some really good supply of aluminum here, and I've used this for many of the camera mounts. I'm looking for a special piece right now. Brings back so many memories of renovating all of the houses. I've renovated 3 houses in my lifetime. Thank you, Home Depot. Anybody that's ever been to my shop is amazed at how many Dremel tools I have, how many bits. Well, there's more here. I think a few more than I have. Anyway, some of these are really useful. These are the ones we're going to be using very soon. But I get all of that stuff from Amazon because we use it like water in the shop. This is always funny. Here's the spray gun similar to the one I use that I get for $12 to $14 at Harbor Freight. How funny is that? Every time I leave Home Depot, I just think, oh, another trip done. Get back to working on Rip's parts. Okay, we're back from our beautiful trip to Home Depot. We have all our supplies. We're ready to go back to work. First thing I got to do is pull the clamps off, pull the tape off, and see how rigid that is before I make a decision on if I need more reinforcements or not. First thing I want to assess here, and it seems like it would be simple, but it's really not as simple as you think it is. I want to drill that hole out, because what I want to find out is just how strong this part is. And let me explain. Once I drill that hole, we are going to have a stress riser right at the point this broke the first time. So I don't want to have a stress riser, but what I thought I could do, I can reinforce it now on the upper lip, and I have a really nice, unique idea with a piece of 1/8 inch or 3/32 music wire, and just bury it in JB Weld. But first thing I want to do is drill that hole out, and I want to see what happens is, and this is probably the mechanic that worked on a bike or Rip, there's a rubber bushing goes in here. Now maybe they lost the rubber bushing or missed it, or there's usually a steel sleeve in the middle, so you can't over tighten it. But once you over tighten it, all bets are off. So my feeling is once you get done with this, make sure, and you can see on some of the other pieces here, there should be a rubber bushing there. In this case there is a rubber bushing, but when you leave these rubber bushings out, what happens is it tends to crack the plastic. And most of the fairings I've replaced and repaired, especially the older bikes, it was totally avoidable. Everything in a bike should be rubber mounted. There should be nothing holding this right to the frame. And once those rubber bushings deteriorate or harden, and well, or if you leave that little steel sleeve out and just crush it, defeats the whole purpose. Anytime you're drilling anything thin, plastic, thin aluminum, anything, a step drill is always the best way to do it. Now, I want to dress that off with a Dremel tool, with one of those little grinder bits. That'll make that a nice smooth fit so that rubber bushing, when you put it back in there, fits exactly. And if Rip doesn't have any of these bushings, I'm sure I have some out in the garage, but all of these things to maintain a fairing, to keep it from cracking and breaking the tabs and everything, which obviously this one's already broken, is keep those rubber bushings and keep those little steel sleeves, the inserts, don't lose them. That really allows this to just float in rubber, and then you would never have this crack. And that is a good suggestion for anybody with an older any motorcycle, not even older. Now I notice on the other part of the fairing, some of them have the rubber bushings, and let's see. Yeah, he's got all the rubber bushings, so, and everywhere those rubber bushings are, that's a critical thing to prevent these tabs and all these cracks. So that is really, that's it in a nutshell. So one of those little sanding drums, and these are the things that, it's just funny, I was just in Harbor Freight, and these are like $6, and then you get a pack of 100 for $9 from Amazon. But anyway, that really made that. Now I can evaluate if I've cured the stress riser, and if I haven't, I'll just make another reinforcement in the back before I move on with this. Because I don't want to go through all this work, and somewhere down the future, it breaks again. This is just to clean up some of the burrs. I don't want to have these burrs on. Now it's real important working with this material not to breathe any of the dust in, either from the JB Weld or from the most of all the carbon fiber. But I keep this little guy handy, and what I have, this used to be the house vac. I made this the shop vac and bought a brand new one for upstairs. So this one has really had a long service life. But what happens with these, as all modern things, the batteries go dead, and it's not realistic to replace the battery. The battery costs as much as the tool. So anyway, I've gotten good service out of that, and I do like to keep the work area clean while I'm doing this kind of work. Now this is what I thought was going to be the issue I want to deal with. You see how this now is bending right where my finger is. Just as it did before, of course we've drilled a hole now, we've created a stress riser. So now I'm going to insert a piece of 1/8" music wire. Music wire is right up there with drill rod as the strongest steel you can buy. And I'm going to embed it in a layer of JB Weld. And that'll totally eliminate that. And it adds an extra step to it. I didn't want to do it in the beginning, because by doing it in 2 steps, it'll be a lot stronger. I'll sand this first, get it roughened up, and then mix the JB Weld and bury the piece of wire. And of course, anytime you're bonding anything to anything, the best surface is the roughest surface. The rougher you can make it, the better it's going to bond. And this will really be the final, I think this will be the final solution to this problem. Well, I guess we're going to find out. But rough is always better than smooth. Now, every modeler knows what music wire is. This is extremely strong. It is not coat hanger wire. So I need to figure out how far out I want that to go. Roughly there. Go over it. And the only way you can cut this, you cannot cut this with a hacksaw or anything, is to go onto a grinding wheel and cut that with a grinding wheel. And then we're going to have to roughen it up. I want to put as many teeth in it as possible, so that JB Weld will get the maximum grip. So if you look at this close, you'll see there's all little grinding marks in it. The idea is that this will get the best bond. We've created, by having little teeth, we've created, just like an air filter, way more surface area for this to bond in. And I think this will be a really good solution, and it'll add a nice little touch, a quality touch that somewhere down the road this is not going to break. So what I'm going to try to do is taking JB Weld and build a little amount of it on here that I can bury that wire in. I don't have to totally bury it, just get a bond, and we'll probably, this is overkill, probably wouldn't break if I just left it, but again, as long as we have this bike apart and we're doing the work on it, it only takes an hour or two more, and then you have that it's never going to break. And so many people I know, they're afraid to commit to that last hour when it really would have made it bulletproof. And in my case, you know, the bikes that I have, my personal bikes, I hate when I have to go back and do something over again that I could have done right the first time. And boy, there's a long list of those projects, that's for sure. Now, I've got the JB Weld in there. I've got the wire, and this is the right way to do it. I know this is, a lot of people think, that's overkill, overkill, overkill. Well, you know what it is. But when you're out, I always think you're out far from home on a cold or a hot day, and some part of your bike is substandard, and you think, I wish I would have done it. Wish I would have done it the right way. So I try to show how I would do it. Now, of course, there's other people have different ways of doing this. Some people have just put duct tape on this. I don't have an opinion about that. Okay, so we're going to drop that rod in there. And then we're going to carefully make a little radius on it. And let's see how nice we can make this so it looks like it's a quality job. And what we have to do is just put a little bit of heat on this. The heat makes the JB Weld capillary and makes it dry just a little bit faster. Now, I just noticed while I was at Home Depot today, what a wide variety of JB Weld products. They've evolved into all kinds of products that are, I'm going to have to check some of them out. I haven't used anything but this. And again, I said it at Home Depot, in fact. The 5-minute JB Weld, when we used to do model airplane stuff where strength was paramount, and I mean really paramount, the 5-minute JB Weld never held like the real McCoy. So anyway, now what'll happen, I'm going to let that sit. A couple minutes from now, just hit it with a little heat. That'll make it just flow right in there. Now, even that little bit of heat is going to make it that I can just get this to lay down just a little bit nicer. Keep in mind, it's the inside of the fairing. You're probably never going to see this unless you crash the bike. But the gods see everywhere. That's for sure. And I bought a lot of used bikes from people, so has Luciano. And I always, when I buy a bike used from somebody in the past, and we take it apart and see what kind of workmanship that the person who had it before you, some of the strip bolts and some of the, I don't know, not exactly up to factory spec would be the best way to put it. Okay, so now once we get this all in here, what's going to happen? This has to dry overnight. And by drying overnight, this will be, then I really want to get this part, this is the one that's making those little tabs. That's a whole nother issue here. But getting this out of the way, because this is going to be, well, I don't know, maybe they're both going to be delicate. I always think this is the delicate thing. As soon as somebody tightens that front bolt too tight, you're in big trouble. What are those rubber bushings? How important to keep those rubber bushings refreshed. Now, I will babysit this for a while. It's sitting under a heating vent, which probably a half hour from now, I'll just make sure that wire is where I want it to be. It hasn't. I've tried to make it flat to the table. I've shimmed this up. So this is just sitting there. The heat will make it cure just a little bit faster. It'll go to where it's hard. But it's always best to let it sit. No matter what they tell you on a tube, 24 hours from now, then we'll give that the real macho test. And by the way, a good tip, really good tip. Anytime you're heating any kind of epoxy, mostly JB Weld, when you see bubbles, you've made it too hot. You want to go right up to where it makes the bubbles, and just as soon as you see a bubble, you're done, and just trowel it out. And that is really good information from somebody with many years of doing this. Now, many of the steps on this repair take a long time to do. You don't really see how long it takes because the video has to be short enough that you can watch it without falling asleep. So I try to shorten it up. So I wanted to get started on this part today. I don't know how much time we're going to have, but right now I want to get these pieces. I want to make a pattern up out of paper. You can see they're missing. But the first thing I have to do is clean off all this residual material. And make a clean footprint that I can glue these parts to. Without that, we're going nowhere, and I need to get all of the material off the back of this with those little grindstones so that I can make a little carbon fiber reinforcement for that. So that's really, this is really one of the parts of the job that gets very labor intensive, is removing this old, I'll call it chewing gum, but it's really not appropriate for this kind of a repair. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of material on here that has to come off. And just like, and there's no point putting a lot of this on video, this all has to come off with the grindstone, the little grinders, and I have to be down into raw plastic so I can make a bigger footprint once I attach this part to get the carbon fiber to lay around there. So again, what makes this difficult, if this part had never been repaired before and I just had the tab to glue on and I could make the reinforcement, which has been the case with a lot of Vlad's and Mark Morgan's parts, and some of Glenn's parts, when you have that. So what I'm suggesting is, if you break one of these parts off and you're wiping your bike off in the garage and it's on the floor, save that part. It makes my repair job a whole lot easier. Now I'm going to have to create these. Well, that's another part of the job. But right now, this will be pretty labor intensive to clean that all up. This is pretty messy work, and there's no way to make it nice and neat. A lot of it is with that little tool, but a lot of it is by hand. And I've got to get this surface, number one, rough. Number one, I've cleaned it, of course, with prep wall. And I'm down to raw plastic, so I haven't driven any of the residual grease or oil or whatever down into the plastic. So this is about as good as I can get a bond. And I think we're pretty much ready to, this side is ready. The only problem is, this side, we're going to have to create these, and they're both going to be different, because this one I have a half a part, the other one I have nothing. So first thing I have to do is make a pattern. Once I have a pattern, then I'll cut the parts out of carbon fiber, try to get them tacked into position before I put the new carbon fiber on, and then we'll just see if it's our lucky day. So to do the basic reinforcement, this is carbon fiber. It's actually the material we use to make tuned two-cycle exhaust systems for model airplanes. And what we're going to try to do here is cut up a little pattern of this to make a reinforcement. And I think that'll be fine. First of all, we don't want the parts, I don't want the parts to break again. And the two that I still have a tab for before I do anything, I want to reinforce them. So I'm going to use this material and see if I can get the CA to bond to that plastic. So what we're going to try to do is just to get this piece tacked in here temporarily. This will be kind of, that is Brodac CA, by the way. Cyanoacrylate is the real word. People that have never built model planes, CA is the abbreviation. Now that's just to tack it down. That's going to go off almost instantly. And usually in the course of doing this, you glue your finger or your glove or whatever to the part many, many times. The accelerator will usually make it kick very quick. And once we have that tacked in place, then we can work it. Okay, by now it's finally kicking off. I feel it getting hot. I know I'm at the end of that cycle. So now I just let it sit just for about a minute or two. Next step, as it's cured up, we don't have to make this pretty. This is inside the fairing. You're not going to see it, but I do have to make it strong. I'm roughening everything up, and then I need to trim the overage on it. Now I can trim the overage on this with either a razor blade or just sand it with a sanding block to bring it up even with that. And then I'll put several more coats of CA on the back of it. And by the way, it's Brodac CA, and I feel terrible to have to say, but the late John Brodac, and he was a good lifelong friend, and actually a business partner for many, many years, so recently passed away. But the products live on, and you can buy that from brodac.com. Now the whole key to this is messy, dirty work, but some of these parts for older motorcycles, they're not available for any price. And if you do buy them off the internet, they're worse than the ones you have, which I'm sure we've all found out. Anybody that's restored old motorcycles knows it's always buyer beware. Anyway, when you can fix these, it opens up the door to doing your own work. And I will just trim that up with a little sandpaper. And I'll repeat the same thing on the other one before we start the difficult side. And the last thing we'll do is, of course, drill a hole for that part. But for right now, that's reinforced. And I think that's just cheap insurance while you have the motorcycle apart. All right, so pretty much I'm going to do the other one off camera. I'll have these both done. And that probably be all we'll get done today. This removing that old material has added a lot of hours to the job. And it is warming up outside. I would like to get a little ride if possible. Karen's monitoring the temperature. Now for sure, this is dirty, filthy, messy work. But as I always say, in the end, we've got one side done, and the other side is going to require a whole day of work. We're going to have to make some parts. But I'm going to take a little coating of epoxy over that just to make it a little bit nicer than it is. And then tomorrow, the next day we get to work on it, we'll drill the holes and we'll work on making up these parts up here. But Karen just yelled down at me. It's starting to look like maybe I can get a short ride this afternoon. And we'll come back to this later. So the last step today here, I wanted to mix a little bit of this 5-minute epoxy. It's not really structural. It's really just to keep any little fibers from there if you catch your fingernail on it or something. Give it a nice clean appearance. And of course then that's got to dry overnight. Perfect, because the weather has really gotten nice out there. I didn't think it would, but it did. So it's always my opinion that in this part of the country, when you get a day somewhere around 40 degrees, you should go out and ride. Now normally, this time of year we don't get to ride a lot. But this year, we've had a pretty good luck with the weather. I've gotten an awful lot of winter rides that I did not expect. To be honest, I did not expect to get. But I never want to waste one. I don't want to spend a day, because we're going to have a long winter coming up soon. I'm just getting, my gut feeling is every time you think about it. I've had some winters where I was 2 months without riding a motorcycle. And when you're addicted like I am, that addiction, it's horrible. I don't know how to explain it. I guess if you have to explain it to somebody, you're never really going to make any progress anyway. But this is here, I guess, to keep you from getting splinters. Or in the past, I've done this with thick CA. I just don't happen to have any here. And I wanted to expedite the job. This will do the same thing. Just put a coating on it. Now next time we do get to work on this, making the tabs up is a labor-intensive thing. We're going to do it. And we're hopefully going to get be able to share the information. There's an awful lot of friends of mine own old motorcycles. And one of the most common repairs you have to make on old motorcycles is you break the tabs. It's incredible how many times I've done this. I bet I've done 20 for Vlad and for other people. But once you know how to do it, Mark Morgan was real good. He figured out it was really perfect in the end. He didn't even need me. He did his own. And that's the best of all. But sharing the information is important. I think it is anyway. These old bikes need a lot of tender love and care. They're like me. Anyway, that's going to sit. I'm heading out. I'm going to get suited up and go for a ride. Now, before I go out for a ride, I'd like to give my daughter a little plug. These are shirts that she's selling. And what you have to do is just Google this word. Mighty Humankind. These are made with super high quality material. All the things are sustainable. Special inks that don't pollute the environment. And of course, she's totally committed to saving the planet, as I guess we all should be if we're not. And one of the things I wanted to do, I'll be wearing this a good part of the summer. And I don't want to wear it in the shop, obviously on a day like this. But anyway, these will be really nice. And if you check out her, just look up Google Mighty Humankind. You can see the whole website. 10% of the proceeds are going to charity. So she's trying to save the environment, make some nice shirts for us, And I'm asking you just go check it out, Mighty Humankind. You might want to look up her music channel, Stacie, StacieRose. She's my daughter, and she's quite a gal. This is her little entrepreneurial thing to try to save the planet. Check it out. So if you look up on a computer, and like I said, you just Google Mighty Humankind, there's her little site. And since some of the money is going to charity, I have purchased several of these for myself and to wear this summer. And some of the causes I think are really worth supporting. I feel like I want to give her a plug because she's been a great daughter, of course, and one of the things, she's got this great music. She's made music, written music, performed music. Stacie Rose, quite a gal, and she is my daughter. So, if that interests you, please, and you can even join her email list. All right, but Stacie, I think you would agree. It's a nice day. I'm heading out for a ride. Now, of course, any day we get done with our day's work, our errands, all our things that we have to do, and there's enough time left over for a short ride, we're going to take it, and we're going to take it every time. The weather's been totally variable all day, clouds in, clouds out, but we're coming up on 40 degrees, and 40 degrees is the time I think we're going to have a nice ride. And I think all last winter I spent on this renovation, mixing my own gold paint, doing decals with John Pothier and Thomas Luciano, and we put our heart and soul into this project, but now it all pays. And while we're out riding, we'll get some more footage from the Windslayer, and because this is a fared bike, there's a lot more chance we can kill some of the wind noise. But we're still gathering data with every ride. Now, even though it was still cold, there's still some snow on the ground, we did enjoy this ride. I wish the skies were a little bluer and it was a little warmer, but I'll still take it. And this time of year, every ride you can get is a bonus. And this museum is located right on Teterboro Airport on Reiser Road. And it's quite a nice thing to just get out on a bike on a day like today. Any miles I get on a bike this time of year, just a big free bonus. And even on one of the more modern bikes, it's still good to get out. And this bike is always a joy to ride and very comfortable. What a great investment those 500 hours of restoration were. And every part of that 500-hour restoration is on our video channel. Another eclectic day, goes in the bank. The sun came out, in and out of the clouds all day. We did get a ride. Everything got done today. It was really a surprisingly good day. I want to thank the healthcare workers. Guys, I totally appreciate all the sacrifices you've made for my family and maybe for your family too. I don't know. I'm glad we're all blessed to still be healthy at this point in this virus. I did get some more footage to look at on the Windslayer. I'm hoping Turbo Steve and I can come up with something we can share that'll be of value. This bike is pretty good about eliminating the wind noise, but I still like to have more and more footage of it. I like to get high speed, the medium, around town. Today we went to the Teterboro Aviation Hall of Fame Museum, where my uncle is one of the people that's honored there, so I always like going there. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. And we do try to post up something new, something interesting every day. We try to share the little bit of the technology world, things that we've learned over 50 years of working with these products, paint products, carbon fiber, epoxies, those kind of things. And for some people that find that interesting, we have almost an unlimited bottomless supply of good adventures and bad adventures to share. And I hope you did enjoy the video. I do this stuff because I enjoy the editing, I enjoy the rides, I enjoy going to that Teterboro Aviation Hall of Fame Museum. That is a cool place. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you guys so much for watching.